So, basic here is absolutely gaining those customer insights. Why do you think so many, even well-schooled marketers don't provide the time or don't really build in the time needed to gain the insight from the customer to really be successful?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, in the modern marketing environment, and actually, this isn't necessarily even a modern problem. This marketers have always been under the gun for delivery of results, for
Right.
performance, for new revenue. And CEOs are frequently impatient and want those results now. They want the quarter numbers, especially if that company is public or has venture capital reports that they have to meet. And so I think a lot of it is just the pressure of the situation.
Right.
And in the modern environment as well, the buying experience is happening. I think the last statistic I read was 87% of a buyer's journey is happening before they even interact with your brand.
Wow.
And that's what that means for marketers is you have to do a lot of work before you're actually capturing that lead or capturing that transaction. And all of that work is happening, 80% of that is happening in what's deemed dark social, or where it's very difficult to track. And the last 20 years of marketing, you've been able to track everything.
Right.
And now, call it the last 5 to 7 years, it's very difficult to track a lot of those interactions, but they're critical to the buyer's journey.
Do you think there's a difference in earlier stage companies versus later stage or established regarding the effort put into understanding the customer?
I think more established companies are going to know that they're going to have more data at their disposal. They're going to have more resources to know their customer more intimately. But I do think a startup or an earlier stage, there's also a little bit of room there to define the audience because uh, you're growing and adapting and your product might evolve or your SaaS offering might evolve based on segments behavior. And
Right.
again, if you're talking to customers and you're involving your product team in talking to customers, you'll find parallel and tangent areas that you can evolve to, and that will reshape who your buyer is ultimately.
And that I think is really what is uncovered in a traditional problem market fit uh, strategy, where you're really trying to understand, here's the ideal um, customer, here's the product, and then how are they interacting? And what we've seen is a lot of companies skip problem market fit and they go to right to problem or product market fit. And what they've not gained during the product market fit, 6 months, 9 months, year of really interacting with customers and figuring things in and out are exactly those insights that you gain through years of being in market. So I love that, really how you've broken that down, and it is some good advice for our listeners today. You've gained all this insight. Now you're going to go to market. And, we're not only gaining insight on how they interact with a product, but we're gaining insight on what they do with it and ultimately how it's used and the impact that it makes on their life. So, if we're talking about multi-channel strategies that are really converting and meeting the goals that are so important, we talk a lot in our own company about right audience, right person, right message, right time, right device. And that ties into a lot of your methodology as well here.
Yes, absolutely.
And
um Sorry, go ahead.
so, how do you go about making sure that your approach with the multi channel strategy has all of those elements involved in it?
Yeah, that is a good question. Honestly, it just comes down to the prep work. And some of those pieces are going to be long tail efforts that take a lot of time to gain traction. For example, SEO. SEO, even with the onset of AI, is still a critical part of your strategy. And SEO takes months and years to really get a foothold. Now, for teams that need to operate, that don't have big budgets or need to operate, on a little bit thinner margin, you can start overlapping strategies like AI engine optimization or generative engine optimization with your SEO. And so that you take those tactics and you start working them together so that it doesn't require as much resource, as well as you can still have some outstanding results. The other piece, which helps for scale, but also helps you in the multi-channel effort, is a principle that a former colleague and friend of mine, his name is Manuel Reach, he taught me, was a principle called atomization. So where you take long form content, like what we're doing today in this podcast, video podcast, and you break that into really small bite-sized pieces, both written and video and audio, and you distribute it in mass across all your platforms.